And we are live.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's V and Cowboy and Veles. Hey, do you want me to do the intro or do you want to do the intro?
No, you do the intro, man. You're back. And yeah, just, no one does an intro like V the Guerrilla does an intro.
Thank you. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. No matter where in the heck of the world you are, it is the notorious V the Guerrilla Economist coming to you live on this edition of Rogue ESW, baby. Rogue ESW. Coming to you live with my main man, the Algo Cowboy, and my other main dude, the one and only Veles, the Dark Raven of the Deep State. Folks, lots of things going on in the world, and I said to myself, you know what, it is time for the Optimus Primate to dust off the golden Rogue News microphone and reclaim his chair and his seat to come complete and rock it out the box for your treat. Man, I'm just dropping rhymes all day. And so we got the three of us here. Lots of things going on in the world, and we're here to tell you, keep your powders dry and your wits about you, and don't panic yet. So, guys, where do you guys want to start? I mean, there's so much stuff happening, man. I don't know where to even begin.
Aliens on the White House lawn.
Aliens on the White House lawn is a very good place to start. We can probably talk about Project Bluebeam. We can talk about how the markets are doing, Cowboy. We can talk about Iran, Israel, the EU, the UK, the China, the Russia, the United States. I mean, it just goes on and on. So let's get into it.
Well, Project Brownbeam is the newest project over in Tel Aviv right now.
Oh, Brownbeam. We have clips from Project Brownbeam. Cowboy, if you can bring up a clip of the individuals in that bomb shelter, if you can bring that up. I texted it to you. Did I text it to you and Veles?
Yeah, that was a text. I'll see if I can find it.
Yes. Project Brownbeam.
Careful with the clips before we get kicked off the air.
I think this one's we are promoting diversity here, Veles.
Yes, and then on top of that, this is for educational purposes only, folks. Educational purposes only.
You're going to take me a minute to drum that up, V. So you move forward. We'll come back to it.
Yep.
Well, I'll weigh in on a quick one while we're finding the oil filter. And this is something it'll be a much shortened version of what I said last night on the Discord channel for those of you that are out there. But one topic I'd like to raise among many that I kind of jotted down this morning before we got into this is whenever we have a lot of coverage on Twitter, aka X, or other social media platforms that are talking about FAA flight patterns, or for that matter, the equivalent of numbers stations in the United States that are sending updated codes to various folks. The first question you have to ask yourself is, why is that coming out now? Some of you may recall a year or two ago, maybe longer, somewhere somebody posted on social media, hey, there's a whole bunch of military flights going up and down the East Coast. What's going on? And of course, the lords of disinformation said, oh, that's the white hats. They're taking back America. And we, among others, said, we at Rogue, among others, said, no, that's not true. That's your government doing what it does best, which is everybody needed to get their certification for jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. And they were behind. And so they're all trying to get it in at the end of the year. So that's what those military flights are going up and down the East Coast, is they're dropping parachutists so that they can either re-up their certification or get their badges, as the case may be. So there's been a lot pointed out about, there's all these military planes taking off, these refueling aircraft, whether the old KC-135s or the new KC-46s, or for you folks that are really into granularity, the KC-46A as an alpha. But the net of that is this: why all that attention now? We have flights all the time that the military says, hey, we're filing a flight plan. And it could or could not be something secret. It could just be, to quote Fletch from the movie Fletch, it could just be ball bearings. But the other thing is that, as I said last night on Discord, those aircraft, the tanks, if you will, that contain the fuel, those are not metal tanks like taking up space inside the fuselage of the aircraft. They're big rubberized bladders, or if they've got more exotic fuel, it's like a synthetic bladder. But if you take those out of the plane, what have you got? Well, you've basically got a big cargo plane. So that begs the question, are they not actually refueling, or some of them are designated to refuel, but the others are actually carrying cargo? There's no way to know, because as V often says, we're reading other people's email, or in this case, we're reading the FAA's data. But is it a distraction? Is there some substance behind it? Who knows? But the point is, a lot of those planes have moved. They may be carrying cargo, in fact, rather than fuel, which would be a great way to move cargo. But then it begs the question, what is the cargo, and what could you possibly need to get over there? But if you look at our air operations, which are in the public domain during the 1991 military operations against Iraq to remove them from Kuwait, we really didn't have that many refueling aircraft in theater, as it were. And you always have fighter aircraft near those gas cans while they're flying, which does not necessarily seem to be the case here, although, yes, the fighters could not have filed flight plans and turned off their transponders. Anything's possible. But is it something to notice? Yes, but we're being told to notice it. And that should be your first indicator. And then I have some thoughts on Minnesota, unless, Algo, you're ready to go.
Almost. Go ahead.
Okay. So just to follow on to the events in Minnesota, we have to remember that there are Gladio-like resources in the continental United States. Yep. Just ask John F. Kennedy in 1963 in Dallas. For that matter, recall the famous statements by Colin Powell following 9/11. Some of you may remember this one. No, I'm not talking about him making statements at the United Nations about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction. I'm talking about him publicly speaking about the fact that supposedly there was a meeting at the White House with Bush Jr. following 9/11, where Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice strongly told President Bush, do not, because there was a discussion about, well, we ought to just send assassination squads across the United States. And supposedly, according to the narrative, Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice said, you can't do that. Because the minute you go down that road, you're creating a whole host of problems. And what happens when the next president comes into office? Now, there's a lot with that topic. My point in bringing it up is you can't activate something like that out of the blue. You have to already have those resources inside the United States. So what's the story on the back page in the news about the shootings in Minnesota? That is, before they go into the memory hole, that the gal who was killed, that she had voted against health benefits for foreign nationals in that state. So along these lines, keep in mind, folks, with the No Kings protests and similar, in case you haven't noticed or you just haven't been scrolling around the internet, there are efforts underway to make sure that those protests start up all over again on July 4th. So just be mindful of that. And July 4th is on a Friday. So you'd kind of have a repeat of what we had this last weekend, which is it starts on Friday and it goes through Sunday. But then the other question to ask is, and does that mean that what occurred in Minnesota is just the beginning? Or was it a warning to everybody else that this will continue, sort of thing? There's no way to know. But if I was any kind of high profile individual, regardless of what political side I'm on, I would definitely stay in my basement those 3 days. Gents?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, my big question is, like, why did that Minnesota? I mean, it's pretty obvious on the surface. Yeah, the representative, the woman was trying to block funding for illegals for healthcare. That warranted her getting killed, and and how many people? Her husband, and somebody else.
Yeah, and there were also some. It kills me about this topic because there were other. Even I'm not as up to speed on this as I wish. There were other people that were shot, but they survived.
I think it was wasn't a separate incident in a separate house, but it was like the same type of incident, and they were shot and survived, and then it was like they broke into a different house and killed interesting. I guess maybe he had to get the first kill jitters out,
Again, it's all highly suspect. I'd pay big money to, know whether or not the attorneys of the pharmaceutical industry have already had a judge issue an order that anything about the medication this guy's been on is locked down. Sure. And of course, we also, let us not forget, we've got the shooter's wife was found with firearms and everything else in the vehicle, which doesn't mean anything, but other than they found her in a vehicle loaded with firearms. So it's like, are they both? I'll go there. Are they both MK Ultra like modified people, or is there something else going on? Hard to say. Plus, place your dollar bets. Does this person pull an Epstein and hang himself in his prison cell? And we have no film of that. Anything is possible. And of course, much like we saw in Tennessee with the shooting in the Christian school, with the woman shooter in that one, we evidently have a manifesto again, and they won't release it. And again, I wouldn't use the word problem. The issue I have with these topics, folks, is we've had shootings before without a manifesto.
Right.
And then Tennessee, we had a manifesto. So my first question is, why do we have a manifesto? I mean, what do you call it? Ted Kaczynski had a manifesto, but Ted Kaczynski was brilliant and had a PhD. So telling me Ted Kaczynski sat down at one of his typewriters and cranked out a multi-page document about his thoughts on why he was doing what he was doing, that I kind of get. He's an ideologue. But the gal in Tennessee, I'm sorry, she doesn't fit the demographic of the sort of person who's going to sit down and share their thoughts with the world. And it's the same thing with this shooting in Minnesota. So again, I got to say, I don't say scripted as it doesn't matter or it didn't happen. I'm just saying this is very scripted. This is like straight up Rand Corporation. Well, we find that the public tends to ignore these more if they hear that there's a manifesto, and we can distract them with,
right.
like the JFK files. You're focused on the manifesto instead of asking questions like, who the heck is this person? Why would he and his wife both be jacked up on this thing? And of course, my other personal favorite, because I had this conversation with some friends this weekend, as I pluck this one out of the memory hole, let us all turn back the page. And I'm not laughing because this is funny, folks. V and Algo can testify to this. I was literally telling them, what was it, guys? Saturday? I think it was Saturday. I was texting the two of them and saying, I literally cannot keep up with this shit. There's the nonsense they're throwing at us from every possible direction, including we're going to reopen the pyramid at Giza. It's like, my God, we just flipped the manual over and said, transmit everything, transmit everything we've got. But yeah, we have convenient manifestos instead of asking questions like, that's two people, a man and a woman. I mean, purely from any of you who've watched, law enforcement shows on TV, that's very out of the ordinary. Who've targeted a high-profile political office-holding person and their spouse. But wait, there's more. This is almost a repeat of Nancy Pelosi's husband, where everybody's like, wow, this guy broke into his house and attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband. And it's like, I'm sitting here with, and I'm sitting here with the 1976 record player going, wait a minute. Nancy Pelosi has private security. Nancy Pelosi has Secret Service. The Pelosi's hold many properties in California. The Pelosi's are one of the, depending on who you ask, 4 to 7 families who run the state of California. And somebody just walked in? No. And it's the same thing here. We have a high-profile political leader in Minnesota, and we just forgot to have a security perimeter around that person. What? But these aren't the questions we're asking. We're going to dangle something shiny in front of you. Here, look, there's a manifesto. You should be angry about this. You should ask for the manifesto. It's like, no, you should ask different critical questions about what happened with this crap. And by the way, who do these people know? Who else are they connected to? Oh, wait, Dr. Evil. We also have the other data point that's since come out, which when I read it, I thought, you've got to be kidding me. You could have at least said it was Argentina or Brazil or something, but no. This guy has an LLC operating in the Congo. Really? You've got to be shit. You're not even trying. I mean, come on. Come on, Apex Elites. You're not even this isn't even good. I mean, a 5-year-old could have come up with this. So I've got this guy running an LLC in the Congo, the shooter. Which is some sort of like shield organization or whatever. And we have no idea who he's connected to. It's like, what comes out next? This guy has followers and his followers are out there attacking high profile politicians. Who knows? I yield back to V and Algo.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's going to be interesting. Rolling into July the 4th, we have all these more of this color revolution by the communist globalist factions who are using idiot communists to really create as much chaos as possible in the United States. Then you have the situation in Israel with, a lot of people, you got dummies on one side who are like, oh, Iran is they're depleted, they're weak. No, they're pummeling the hell out of Tel Aviv. If Israel's not doing so well right now, okay, so if they're not doing so well, there's the potentiality, if this goes sideways, right, if the United States gets involved, how's the United States going to do anything apart from what Israel's already doing? What, surgical strikes? No, they've already shot down 2 F-35s. What's going to happen? If the United States gets in, what the hell are we going to do? And now that I'm hearing, Veles and Cowboy, is that the USS Nimitz, an aircraft carrier that is scheduled to be decommissioned next year because it's old. It's old.
How convenient.
Yeah, how convenient.
How convenient.
Right? We have an aircraft carrier that's about to be decommissioned. Now it's floated its way into it's floating its way towards the Strait of Hormuz. Like, I mean, who's writing the script here, guys?
Well, we're going to rename it the SS Liberty.
Well, yeah. Somebody also had a photo on the internet of the back end of the carrier sailing away, and there's a giant sign on the back of the carrier that says "Kick me."
Yeah.
Again, folks, yeah. I'm not laughing, but I'm laughing. I mean, and to V's point about the Straits of Hormuz, we were talking about this one last night, which is people who have monitored these exchanges of military kinetic operations, shall we say, between Israel and Iran previously, have asked questions like, okay, you've struck targets in Israel, Iran, but I'm noticing the port at Haifa is still in one piece. I'm noticing the power grid, the key locations in Israel that are their power grid are still functioning. And similar rebuttals about Iran. How many of their refineries have you hit? Which of their ports have you hit? Now, two things. One, yes, it appears targets like that have been struck. The question is how bad, because there's obviously a lock on the media in both countries right now. But the other thing is, and I'll go there, I am not saying in the slightest that nothing has happened. But I am saying that there's way too much imagery I've seen in social media and in other places that I'm telling you folks right now, it's AI. Now, it doesn't mean that all the attacks are not happening or what have you, but I wouldn't put it past the Lords of Order, just in their own self-interest, to sneak in some AI images to see whether or not the public will catch it.
Sure.
Because I've also noticed on Twitter, there's been a lot of postings of, we'll just say, of certain kinds, that I'm sitting there thinking, some of these are real, some of these aren't. You're trying to see who's clicking I like that to filter and better refine your AI imagery. Because at first the AI stuff was very obvious, and it's getting better. And so regardless of whether or not, oh yes, they're trying to make us think whatever about this conflict, it could be none of the above. It could just be you've got folks out there putting out imagery about explosions and things and video of things to see, did we trick the public into thinking that strike in that city, whichever of the two sides, was actually real. And yes, I mean, I was saying it last week, and it's been said by many others about AI, that we've literally got to question everything in our lives at this point. I mean, I almost wish I knew people living in Tel Aviv or in Tehran that I could somehow get a hold of without the intelligence community asking me why I'm doing that, to ask folks there and say, hey, you're on the ground. Obviously you're under attack, but how extensive is it? Did the missiles land outside that area so it looks like the refinery was hit, or did they actually hit the refinery? Did they actually hit Haifa? Did they actually take out any of the ports? What really is the situation on the ground? Because again, we can laugh about it, we can joke about it, but it's deadly serious. It's that scene out of the movie Wag the Dog, where the entire thing is green screen. Now, that is not the case here. However, there are elements of this that are. And I think separate from the conflict itself or whatever the goals and objectives are, I think part of that is you've got folks out there that are using this as an opportunity to quote Winston Churchill, never let a crisis go to waste. They're using this as an opportunity to test the public, especially internationally. Do, for instance, French citizens pick this stuff out faster than Italians do? Do Americans even notice, etc.? There's a lot of data here that you could learn for whatever the hell they have coming next. Because we always say this on Rogue every year around this time, and we mentioned it on last Friday's program. We did have the Bilderberger meetings taking place this weekend. Great timing. And then we have also got Bohemian Grove going on.
Yeah.
So all the right people are having meetings while all this shit is happening.
Yeah, interesting. You have the G7. You have the Bilderberg happening. You know what's another thing that stood out to me, fellas?
I'm joking, V, but it's the G6 because Donald left.
Oh yeah, it's the G6. Soon it's gonna be the G2. It's gonna be the UK and the EU. But I also find it funny, and I don't know if you guys caught this or not. You know that Elon Musk is keeping Starlink open and active for the Iranians. Why is that? Right? Think about that. Like it's wild, man. It's wild when you think about it. It's like, okay, what's really happening? I mean, shouldn't Starlink? This is definitely the great game is being played out. If this is not a factional war with the globalists, I don't know what is, guys. I don't know what is. And the question becomes: what is the administration going to do? Is the big question here, because you have one side that wants, because they believe the Hollywood propaganda that we are invincible, undefeatable, and there's nothing that can match us, and we're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we won World War II, and so on and so forth. All bunch of nonsense, propaganda BS. And then you have the other side who says, no, this could be disastrous because we are a wounded country. We're a country that's been broken, dilapidated. We're a country that's been robbed, raped, and pillaged for so many decades. We don't need this now. This could really completely destroy the MAGA movement. This could completely wreck everything that the sovereigntists are trying to do. Gentlemen, what are your best guesses when it comes to this?
Well, I'd say that's the reason. I'd say that's why it's being done.
Yeah.
Regardless of the outcome, just sending our boys to die for Israel, it's not gonna bode well for MAGA movement.
Well, yeah, and it's there's a lot of angles here that could take us off road real quick. But I mean, troops on the ground is one thing, and I just can't see it. And if we were to even invade Iran. And the mere statement itself makes me start rubbing my temples. The amount of preparation that would have to take place for something like that would be immense. It would be on par with 1991. So do we go with just we'll use the Air Force? Now, we've heard that argument since World War II. We don't need troops on the ground. We just need the Air Force to pummel the hell out of an adversary. That's been proven a million times. That's not going to fly. Unless somebody uses something exotic. And I've said this on shows, and I was talking to V and Algo about this as well the last couple of days. And I'm not saying this lightly. It's in the public domain, yada, yada, yada. But if you are storing any kind of nuclear weapon or similar in underground caves or what have you, and this goes for either side, if someone, quote unquote, was to detonate a neutron bomb near those locations, it does tend to cause those pieces of ordnance to either go off or fry out. Now, that would be a massive escalation. The public would be like, oh, we used a neutron bomb. And then they'll have the little infographic that explains to you what a neutron bomb is. But for people who know what the hell is going on, and for people who design stuff like that would be, oh my God, you pulled the UFOs out of Area 51. I mean, that's like on par with using that kind of ordnance.
Yeah.
But we knew in Trump's first administration, they tried to get a war going with Iran, and it didn't. The global apex elites, and it didn't take. So now we're going, because they always go with what they know. So right. Serbia's not big enough. China doesn't want to light off right now against Taiwan. We need somebody somewhere to start a big war. I guess we're back to Iran. Because, if we pit Argentina and Brazil against each other, half the world would be like, where are they again? But anyway, so we're going to go with this. And of course, let us not, for all the chuckling, let us not forget the fact that thousands of people are dying on both sides. Because you also have to keep in mind, especially because of my time working with emergency managers, you've got services and things inside those countries that are disrupted or not functioning now. And you have people who need medical care and can't get it and will die because they didn't get the care they needed, beyond just the ordnance being dropped on those countries. And then, of course, we have the never-ending plethora of stories about leaders in Iran and in Israel bailing out of those countries while this stuff goes down. Again, I would love to have some people on the ground in Cyprus right now, because it appears that much of Israel's airlines are sitting in Cyprus. I mean, because if you have to hide your stuff, why not do it in an island that's split between Turkey and Greece and is basically another undeclared war zone? Who would ever look for you there? But yeah, I agree with you, V. I think it can only be one of two possibilities. This is an attempt to derail nationalist efforts to stop the globalists and what they had planned. Again, folks, remember, these are all really big kids fighting over really big things. We're just in the bleachers watching this stuff. Or this was the plan the whole time.
Yeah.
That, an agreement was reached and everybody's goals are still being pursued. Because, the other thing is, look, Iraq is, as a country, is functioning, sort of, but is nowhere near a regional player. It's been said for decades that what is the real dynamic with Iran in that region? They are Persian Shiites surrounded by Sunni Arab countries. So you've got two different ethnic groups and two different branches of Islam who've been having an argument for a very long time, just outside that other Semitic argument between the Levant and half the region. This is a very old family argument. And if Iran gets brought down to where Iraq is currently operating, then you've really only got two countries running that whole neighborhood, and that's Saudi Arabia and Israel. Well, what's left of Israel.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about, boots on the ground, rubbing your temples, but I assure you that our combatants are completely ready. As a matter of fact, I have footage of some paratroopers who are ready to go in
this is
right
amazing.
now.
Yes.
So if you guys are ready for this,
I'm ready.
Worry not. We will be dominating Iran with our paratroopers.
Don't get us kicked off the air.
Here we go.
Oh, these are the Navy SEAL para team.
Yeah, here's
they're the most elite fighting unit on God's green earth. They've even fought on the Mars space stations and stuff, man. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah. Here they go.
Trust Hollywood. Good. Yes. There you go.
I don't think he'll be fighting. But that's okay. We got another.
We got another guy coming.
We got more. It'll be okay. This guy he'll do the job.
He'll definitely nail it. He's got it.
Oh no!
No.
That's not good.
Right at second base.
Those guys are out of the game.
Do you have that footage of our wanted brave individuals, the chosen ones that are in their bomb shelters? Which right now, video footage is coming out that if you are a non-Israeli, you are not allowed to go to a bomb shelter, and the bomb shelters are only in areas that are heavily of the chosen people. If you want to play that real quick, this is what we're fighting for, America. Are you ready to spill your guts? Are you ready to spill your blood? Show them, Cowboy.
Well, and do you think that these guys are the strong, masculine men are ready to take on the Quds Force? I'm not sure about this.
I think they are.
Power gay in a bomb shelter with sexy Tel Aviv power gays.
Power gays. I didn't know such a thing existed.
Guys, you could be anywhere in the world. I think I kind of want to be here.
Okay, that's enough. I can't take
That's
anymore. I can't take any more than that.
I didn't even know that there was a subsect called Power Gays. Are you aware of this, fellas?
Yeah, I had no idea. Don't care to know. Now I know.
Don't want to know.
Yeah, don't want to know. Project Brown Beam. So, all of that to say, we could see some assets in the region. What I'm hoping is that this is as political as it is anything else. We send a few ships over, shoot off some rockets. Let's not say we did.
More theater.
More theater. Yeah.
Yeah. But
And this
the
lends
problem
itself
could
to,
be that this theater could quite backfire on us, and that's going to be hugely problematic.
well, I mean, that's the idea.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's
again,
the
we got a about to be decommissioned carrier in the area, and that doesn't make me feel good, Veles. It really doesn't.
Well, if a carrier should sit, we were talking about this last night, on that list, folks, of I haven't seen the following. And this is what I'm about to say is not a minor thing. It's been said by many, but it's like you hear the words, but for people who know what that really means, it's like, holy God, that is not a minor thing. If somebody sinks a boat big enough in the Straits of Hormuz to make it a danger to navigation, or just flat out blocks the straits, that's biblical. Now, will it truly be justified if oil hits $200 a barrel immediately following that? No, but it's still going to hit $200 a barrel. Now, not to be sarcastic, but Turkey will be just tickled pink. They'll be overjoyed, because Turkey's going to be one of the few places, and I'm talking about just the legal oil they move through that country. I'm not even talking about the black market stuff and the Russians. They'll be overjoyed, because they're in a catbird seat if the Straits of Hormuz gets blocked. And as to my earlier comment, and I don't mean this, who cares whether or not Iraq can get any oil out of the country? Or for that matter, Kuwait. Kuwait will just ship it to Saudi Arabia. But I mean, the net of it is Saudi will still be able to get oil out. Turkey will make a lot of money. Russia will make a lot of money. Venezuela might actually break even. But it's like you sink anything in the Straits of Hormuz, and for all the commodities, traders, the markets around the world leaders and others, they will lose it. Because that's one of several peninsulas around the world, including various canals, that make grown adults in the international environment lose it because of what that means if that waterway gets blocked. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen when we make a reef off the coast of Florida by sinking former aircraft carriers. Yeah. First of all, I'll go there. Those ships are so well designed. I don't want to sound like the Titanic here, like, oh, it can't sink. They have so many countermeasures to prevent them from sinking. And we learned so much from World War II to now in our design of aircraft carriers. So for an aircraft carrier to sink takes an unbelievable amount of effort, even if you're doing it intentionally. But the second thing is if a carrier was to go down in the Straits of Hormuz, how in the hell are you going to remove it? You can't blow it up. Can't. You'd have to call the Norwegians and the Swiss, or the Norwegians and Finland, and they're going to have to do a repeat of what they did with the Russian submarine, and just use cables and slice it into pieces and try and get it out of there. But you're talking easily a year and a half to clear the Straits of Hormuz if somebody sink. Now, your other big option that people have feared for decades is somebody drops a tanker in there. And blocks the waterway that way, especially if you do it sideways. So anywho, that's one of the things I've had my eyeball on, and I have no doubt Lloyd's of London and others are monitoring by the meter and by the minute any boat going through that piece of real estate right now, because beyond people, and I hate to go there, but these city military exchanges that we're watching between Israel and Iran, to the degree that they are indeed occurring the way we think they are, based on what film we're able to get. This has happened before. They used to call this the War of the Cities between Iran and Iraq back in the 70s into the 80s, where various cities in Iran or Iraq would just literally start pummeling each other based on their distance to one another, and especially in the Gulf, because one of the strategies both sides tried to pursue was cutting off the other side's ability to get oil out of the country, and therefore funding to keep the war going. Not that matters. When you've got a really good war going, there's always going to be somebody who wants to sell you arms and will take it on credit, not to be sarcastic about it. But we have to watch now what high profile targets between the two countries may be struck yet. What international, for lack of a better word, blackmail things may happen, in the sense of word is not made known to the public at large, but certain leaders are told, they're gonna block the Straits of Hormuz if we don't bring this thing to an end. One of the comments I made to V and Algo last night was, this is also a classic situation where you get everybody in the world absolutely jacked to the nines, even people in rural Peru who could, I don't mean it, but could care less about what's going on here. Even they're upset right now about, oh my God, is this going to turn into World War III? And then you just pull the plug. War's over, everybody. Markets go up 1,500. That also is an option. But final comment for the moment is equally keep in mind, depending on how real this thing is, there is a level of warfare going on the internet right now you can't imagine among all sides. And here's another Veles kind of comment about that. Yes, you have Iran attacking Israel via the internet. You no doubt have some air support from countries I won't name. Israel likewise is equally attacking Iran or others. But if you're an international hacker collective, some sort of criminal organization from Eastern Europe through the United States, Canada to Japan, this is an amazing opportunity. While all of that crap is going on the internet and there's all this hacking and attacking, if you're a criminal organization who operates on the internet right now, it's open season. Because whatever you do, you can just leave enough breadcrumbs to make it look like it was Israel, or make it look like it was Iran, or make it look like it was China or the United States, when it was none of those folks. It was just you. So there's a free-for-all going on the internet right now by various criminal organizations who are hitting banks, everything else they can. And, in circles that none of you will have access to, conversations are going on with people saying, well, we are the government of Iran. No, you're not. You're operating out of a cafe in Singapore. But it's like that stuff's going on right now, too. And that's not to be taken lightly either, especially for those of you that are familiar with some of the things going on in the medical community right now.
Is now a good time to finally sell those pirated MC Hammer CDs from back in the day online? It's like, I've been holding on to those, because that never goes stale. MC Hammer is it. It's Hammer time. And that was what they were playing in their car just before they went into the Pelosi house a couple years ago. So
I've got some Conway Twitty merchandise I'm trying to unload.
Oh, good God. Oh, boy. Don't make me break out Benny Hill. I'll tell you this much, and let me just throw something up here. Talking about advantages, taking advantage of the situation. Let's pretend for a minute that you just happen to know what was going to happen because, you made it happen.
Sure.
Right. So let's take a look at oil.
You mean like all those stocks that were moving around right before 9/11? Not that I wanted to go there, but
yeah, like someone shorting, Boeing or something.
Right.
Like maybe once a month nowadays, shorting Boeing. So I would be interested if I had, say, I don't know if Bloomberg terminals have this kind of data, but if I had the capability to identify anybody who went long on oil going back to last, say, the end of May. The end of May would be interesting. As a matter of fact, for a position of this size, I would zoom out here. Give me a second here. I'll go back so it doesn't look so messy. I know that totally doesn't look messy. So I would be interested to know who is accumulating during this time. Going back to April in this region right here. Because if you really want to make a lot of money and oil is going to go up, well, you take some long positions when it goes down. And oil was down below $60, which for many, many people is just simply not profitable. You start getting below $60 and, you start shutting down a lot of things. A lot of important people start shutting down a lot of important things. And you notice that it didn't stay there for more than a day or a few days. So if you could see who accumulated during this time, and especially that was the smart money, the guys whose names you don't know. And then maybe here going back to the beginning of the month, the guys whose names you might have heard of, Rothschild, the guys who really aren't in charge and the conspiracy theorists, play with themselves when they think about those, maybe they went long here, right? Whoever went long there. And then maybe Bezos and Zuck went long, right here, which would be, let me see, last Thursday. That would be giving us a lot of information right there. So,
and by the way, folks, bear with me, Algo. What Algo's talking about is immense. This is like intelligence agency kind of thinking, is which private equity firms, which individuals, etc. My personal favorite, which people operating through other organizations made moves prior to these events and during these events that show they had foreknowledge.
Yeah, and then arrest them. I would say, and that's going to be hard to do because a lot of these are going to be unarrestable people. If you take my meaning, a lot of it is going to be.
It doesn't mean their boat won't sink, but yes, you're absolutely right.
It doesn't mean that maybe one of them and his son might not go into a homemade submarine and disappear, because that never happens. But or just a small aircraft malfunctions, as we like to talk about.
Yeah.
So, or if you see one of them show up in the Oval Office with a black eye, that happens occasionally. I'd be looking at that. You're talking about, if you really caught the bottom here, from $58 to $78 is almost 50%. It's like, what is it going to be? 42% something. 34.7%. That's freaking billions and billions and billions of dollars. That might even be trillions. On the derivatives market is certainly trillions. These kind of things, I guarantee you that the foreknowledge and all that, that's all there. And you could do the same with, many markets, but if Hormuz gets blocked, you better look out. And by the way, if Hormuz gets blocked, then oil is going to be rather profitable. So just keep that in mind. Like, if you're interested in, not investment advice, but if you're interested in like companies that produce oil and things like that.
Yes, especially for those of you that this is your thing. Whenever the oil industry is very cost sensitive. I know that may sound crazy because the amount of money they make, but so whenever there's the slightest indicator that the global economy is slowing or whatever, they start shutting down drilling sites similar, as well as R&D money for exploration, which, by the way, is what's been happening roughly. I'm not going to speak at V or Algo's level, but for roughly the last 2 months, there's been a number of indicators on oilprice.com and other public domain sources that a number of major oil players have been cutting back because they were expecting the global economy to slow, and therefore it won't, if they keep pumping oil, they're going to have to sell it or refine it, and they're going to lose money. So it's the age-old joke about a perfect storm, and I don't want to go there, but I'm going to go there. This is like the comments we made a couple of years ago about, isn't it funny that in countries were telling me that a leftist government just took over? If you told me that in the 70s or the 80s, I would have told you you're on crack. But countries like Chile, as well as Peru and others who are big, commodities producers of copper and other things. What did we share with all of you some time ago? That the firms that operate in those sectors were stockpiling, many of them British, were stockpiling natural resources. Then those countries had elections where the new government said basically, well, we're going to nationalize, that's our property, we're not selling it to evil capitalists, this, that, and the other. So they cut off the supply to the markets, which did what? Drove prices way up. And who was able to capitalize on that? All the people that knew it was coming, or probably even orchestrated those elections. I mean, it's as old as time. And, oh, look, we have warehouses filled with this stuff. And now it's 20, 30, 40, 50% more value than it used to have. Well, now we have a bunch of oil companies who've been cutting back on oil exploration and saying, I do not want to live in this world. I want to be very clear about that. I don't think V or Algo do, unless they've got some really clever investments out there. I don't want to live in this world. But if somebody was to hit the Straits of Hormuz right now, holy God,
yeah,
a hell of a time to do it.
Yep.
Been cutting back on oil production.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with oil production is it's a volume business. This is why it's so cost sensitive.
Yes.
So it's such a huge volume of oil that needs to be produced to be profitable at thin margins. And when those margins evaporate, it doesn't matter how much you produce. So that's just big business right there for you. So yeah, the markets speak, man, and oil's been bottom crawling. I'm looking at the chart here. Let me zoom out a bit. I know it's not on the screen, folks. I already shut it off because screens. But oil's been bottom crawling since like 2015. There was a spike during the pandemic, but really it has bottomed out and been very low since about 2016. You had the pandemic spike, and now it's just back kind of, go back, let me see here, 2023. So since 2023 or late 22, really, it's been below more or less, $90. They're not going to make a lot of money on that. And it's been on a downtrend. I mean, the overall look is on a downtrend. So, and I think there was some news last week where OPEC was talking about maximizing production, and so that's not going to bode well for price. The only places that can make money on high production of oil are people who have very low costs, and so you're looking at your poor countries. So there you go. Good. All right. Well, what else we got, guys?
No, I think we covered the gambit for now. I think if there's anything more, we can circle back.
Well, I would say, look, I know what's on everybody's mind, and we probably haven't covered it, is Trump's position here.
Yeah, that's the wild card.
Yeah, so obviously the way, at least in my matrix, the way I've seen it, the information I get, and look, folks, at this point in time, when you're looking at things online, even through people you trust, you have to question it all. It's all very, but at least the things that make sense to me, whether they are real or not, were that Trump was trying to make a deal and to try to keep the war from happening, right? And ultimately, somebody said it, I think it was Ian Burlingame said it yesterday, or in the last few days, Bibi Netanyahu probably has more control of our Senate than Trump does. And this is why we would
100%. That's something Jeffrey, who was it? Was it Jeffrey Sachs that said that?
Might have been Jeffrey Sachs. I don't know.
Might have been. It was like, if you were to take a poll, like who, I think it was Sachs. It
was Sachs.
Yeah, it was Sachs. He said, who has more pull with the senators in the United States? Is it the sitting United States president, or is it Bibi Netanyahu? And the sad thing is, Netanyahu, has more pull in the U.S. Senate, and I would even say the Congress, than Donald J. Trump. What the hell? We are in a sad state of affairs, folks.
Well, I would also sprinkle into that, and I'm dead serious, as far as foreign players or foreign actors are concerned, yes, the state of Israel is significant and has had significant influence on the U.S. government for a very long time. At the same time, it's been said by many, there's also the element of the London Corporation and Davos.
Yes.
Because what we all have to pull back, stop, remember, catch your breath. Until this last election, and it's not that the election is as advertised, but prior to last November, we'll just say that, the United States in many respects and state of Israel were basically assets of the London Corporation. And that's changed. And so Tom Luongo has been repeatedly saying, along with some others, London's just not going to step back and say, well, okay, we lost that round. I mean, they're going to fight back and they're going to push back, which begs the question, is that what this conflict in the Levant and with Persia is about? But beyond even that is when it comes to influence, or dare one say threat to elected officials in this country, never underestimate the power of U.S. intelligence. So yes, those people in the Levant have a lot of influence on our government. But the folks who are close to home and also have a lot of influence on our government is the intelligence community. And that is, again, one of those things that came out of hearings about the JFK assassination and about similar matters, the church committee hearings in the 70s and similar, or even some of the books that have been written about, quote unquote, what really occurred with Dick Nixon. If you're the intelligence community, if you're an intelligence agency all the way back to Rome to this day, No intelligence organization on the planet is ever going to allow the government of the country in which they reside to make decisions. They're just not. It's like Hindenburg's comment about war is too important to leave to politicians. And I've shared with all of you, there are those who've said, and politics is too important to leave to the public. But the one group of people that always expect to be consulted on a number of things is the intelligence community. And you also have to keep in mind, when it comes to the United States, there are the agencies you know, and there are the agencies you don't know.
Right.
But yes, there is a tremendous amount of overseas influence on our government.
You know, and this goes back to the Praetorian Guard. Vive talked about this before, right? So the Praetorian Guard concept is in Rome. The Senate and the leaders, after a certain point, were controlled by their security and their intelligence apparatus. And they're, so V should try to get Ian Burlingame on to talk about this because he's really good at explaining it.
Yeah.
He believes that when Rome fell, feudalism came to be, and they set it up such that there was no Praetorian Guard. So he's a believer that feudalism, which obviously isn't an ideal situation, was better than what there was in Rome. And feudalism was taken down. It was taken down by, he thinks, and I think he's right, the same people who, put in the Praetorian Guard in Rome. So interesting look at that. He takes a pretty he takes a pretty kindly view of feudalism, which is very counter to what we've been taught. But you know what? We're at a point in history where we got to question what we've been taught as well. And the latest, to kind of switch gears here, but not, is talking about, assuming control of the leadership. There's a lot going on, in March, and I'm reading this. This is actually over on Joaquin Flores' channel, and this has been everywhere lately. The U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, told a Senate hearing that Iran is not trying to develop nuclear weapons. Today, journalists asked Trump how close he thought Iran was to creating nuclear weapons, referring to Gabbard's March speech in the U.S. Senate. He says, I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to it, right? And then he's also, he's pretty much like at the point where I think they've said, all right, we are going to kill your family, or you need to start being a neocon. And he's going to say, as Tom Luongo would say, he's going to do the thing. And it is what it is.
It also begs the question, conversation for another time. It also begs the question, by whatever means, by whatever reasoning, if as stated, it's true that this is about preventing Iran from acquiring, keyword, functional and deliverable nuclear weapons, then why was North Korea allowed to achieve it and Iran not?
I thought of this yesterday.
That is an interesting question that has to be addressed.
I don't think it's about nukes. I think Iran probably already has them. I don't think they even need them. I think this is the how do I say this? This is the trigger that gets the populace willing to do what London Corp and Davos and whoever else wants us to do. This is the story that the evangelists are told. This is this is the Pavlovian bell. Is Iran and nuclear weapons? Iran could wipe out Israel without nuclear weapons. Not a problem. They have enough ordnance. Even Mike Pompeo said it. They have enough, conventional ordnance to take care of it. The Iron Dome ain't working now. They could just.
You mean the Iron Foam?
The Iron Colander. So that to say, like, I think that bigger people are hiding behind Israel on this, and always have been. I think Israel has been,
without a doubt.
Yeah, it's just Israel's been the loud, yipping, Pomeranian. That
Israel is the member of your fraternity who keeps starting fights in bars, expecting the rest of the fraternity to bail his ass out when he gets too many people coming after him.
Except he does have a poison knife and might just kill everybody in the bar, including his friends.
Yeah, you got the Samsung man. That's the other thing. Yep. What's up with the Samsung? I keep saying Samsung, but the Samson option, where supposedly there's some lists that were leaked from an Israeli website, Looks Defense. Who knows if it's real? But the Samson option, and I think it is real. I think it was Seymour Hersh. I think Veles just dropped off.
Uh-oh.
Seymour Hersh wrote a book about the Samson option, and supposedly the targets are, if the for those that don't know, if Israel goes down, the Samson option, and it's the story of Samson where he was captured by the enemies of Israel at that time, which is the Philistines, and then as a slave, what he did, he collapsed the pillars holding the entire Colosseum for the Philistines up, and then the entire Colosseum collapsed, killing everybody in there, including himself. Now, the Samson option here is that they are willing to nuke Frankfurt, London, New York, L.A., and so many other world and global capitals if they're going to go down. So it's their whole, if we're going down, we're going to take everybody with us kind of deal.
Yeah, Veles had to go. Had a bit of bit of an issue there, so he'll be okay. But either way,
that's the other thing to worry about. I mean, with friends like this, man. I mean, who needs enemies? Like, who needs enemies? By the way, help us, and if you don't, we'll kill you. What?
Yeah, and the way I heard it was like, just been consuming the Tom Luongo side of things lately, with the bond market and all that, keeping the rates high. Apparently, that's kind of starving the Europeans out, which is why Britain just gave Gibraltar to Europe to probably help recapitalize them.
Yeah.
So, and I talked about it too. Like, where are they getting their money to keep their currency high where they're cutting their rates? Like, there's a lot of things moving in the opposite direction, and Europe doesn't make anything. All Europe's money is coming from just pilfering other countries, and we're a lesser version of that here in the U.S. too. But we still have some manufacturing. We still make some things. We mostly make paper and inflation. But let's not digress. The thing about this is that and it was said pretty well, and it was Burlingame who said it. He said, if they start to lose in the courts, they start to lose legally, it's going to go hot.
Yeah.
And in order for them to stay alive legally, they need money. So if we starve them out and they're losing money, and therefore they start to lose, in the official game, then they're going to go off-roading, and they're going to take us, and it's going to go hot. So, it might just be that it's got to go hot.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
We are on the precipice, and anything can happen, folks. So keep it locked and loaded right here. Cowboy, any other things you want to say?
No, sir.
All right. With that being said, folks, we'll be back. I'm probably going to be returned tomorrow, so I'll have some things to discuss as this. Might as well say I'm back. Let's do it every fucking day, 11 a.m. Let's rock and roll. Cowboy,
Lovely.
take it away, buddy.